So I've applied to medical school, and I work at the hospital here in Marquette. And one experience that was actually really huge in my application that I like to talk about a lot in my interviews when talking about my Spanish language experience and how it can apply to my professional career as a physician is one day I was working at the hospital, and we had a young child with RSV in the hospital, and his mother, who was with him, didn't speak any English, and it was just this young child and then the mother. And I felt like I was able to make like a little connection with the mom language-wise. Like I couldn't serve as an interpreter, obviously, but I felt like I was able to, just in my position as a care aide, make her feel a little bit more comfortable because I was able to speak some common language with her, and I thought that was a really cool experience for me. I think the biggest misconception is that it can only be done by sitting down and learning from a book. And I think that it's what I've learned here at NMU is it's so much more than just learning from a book. You don't just sit down and do book work and learn a language. It's all about speaking and engaging with your classmates and your professor, and that's really how you become good at it and proficient at it. And it's a lot more fun that way too. I think that taking language courses, especially the cultural courses, like I took Spanish 312 with Ardenesius, and I feel like that class was huge to broaden my awareness of like other countries, especially in South America, and getting a good idea of what the recent history of those countries has been and how they are involved in our world relations now. And I think that has really broadened my perspectives because I feel like a lot of times we can be really narrow-minded with what we learn growing up in our school system here, and I think that Northern has done a really good job of like helping me gain exposure to more than just the United States and what other major players there are in the world. I think that pursuing a language has been huge and really opened up my career goals. I never really thought that as a physician I would think that a language would be so important, but given my experience in the hospitals and just like as our world has become a lot more diverse and our country has become a lot more diverse, and given that we don't have a national language, I've found that it's actually a huge component to your personality to have like another language to be able to be spoken, especially as a doctor, because it's huge to be able to make somebody else feel more comfortable in a scary space, especially if if English is not their native language. So I feel like as a physician, being able to speak a common language with somebody is huge. I think that taking Spanish classes in particular, language classes that have been small class sizes, have been really important in growing in my language abilities, because these classes, the whole way that you learn a language is by using it and speaking with other people and practicing, and I think being in a smaller class, I've had a lot more opportunity to do that and engage with the professors one-on-one. I think that learning a language just in general helps you learn how to communicate with other people, not necessarily just like language-wise, but it gives you like experience with being like learning how to communicate with people that are different from you, which I think is really important, even if you don't go on to like be fluent in the language or go on to like do a career that uses that language ability. I think it's important that you just have taken the classes and taken the time to learn how to like understand another language and how other people speak and interact and how other cultures work, because that's really important in our world. I think the community is really strong here with the language department. As I'm a Spanish minor, I haven't had as much experience as some people have had, as like majors have had, like going on study abroad trips, but getting to know people, I've seen like people having like a lot of really good experiences being able to travel and being well supported by our advisors and professors here, and I think that they do a really good job of getting each student the individualized support that they need, and giving everybody the experience that they're here to get. I think if you travel to another country and you do not know the language, you don't nearly get the same experience that you do as if you knew the language, because being a tourist and not knowing the language, you kind of are stuck in that tourist role, and I think that you don't really get the same experience as like you would if you're able to speak the language, where you can really integrate with the community and engage with them like the way that they would normally engage, whereas like they're like speaking their own language, and I think that's like you're really getting to see their true culture that way, whereas if they have to speak English to be able to communicate with you, that's not really them like an authentic way, I guess. So I feel like it's being able to experience the culture in a more authentic way. Yeah, I traveled to Spain 2 summers ago, and I felt like being able to know the language helped me be able to engage with the family I was staying with really well and experience Spain not from the lens of like a tourist, but more from like just somebody living there, and I felt like that was really special to me. And as my language skills have grown since then, I feel like if I were to return to any Spanish-speaking country, my experience would just be even that much more better. I think that they should for sure do it, because even if at the time you don't think you might use it in your future, I'm sure you will, and even if you don't, just the experience of learning the language will benefit you more than you could think, because it gives you skills in communication, working with other students who are different than you, and just learning more about broadening your horizons beyond just speaking English and thinking that the whole world speaks English, because there's so much more than that. Even within our own country, there's people that speak many different languages, and it's so important to understand that there's more than just the English language.
For more information about classes, visit nmu.edu/languages.